We did yesterday, we actually said that in the second commandment, right? That the second commandment teaches us that we shouldn't have another God, right? Not accept another God, not to worship idols. So we add another two prohibitions in it. One is to make curved images, right? It's a prohibition to make curved images. And another one, not to serve them and not to worship them. Right. Now the prohibition, just remember of making them, right, that's not worshiping idols, right? Whoever is making a statue, right, or image, he did not worship idols, yeah? He's breaking a prohibition from the Torah, right? Like wearing shatnez, for example, right? It's a prohibition, but it's not worshiping idols, okay? Somebody that'll go and serve it, worship it, right? That's another story. That's serious stuff, okay? But otherwise, somebody is just making a statue. It's a prohibition, right? And it's forbidden from the Torah. It applies only for Jews. Just remember, I mentioned to you, just to be aware, I mentioned to you the Talmud brings down Rabbi Gamliel, that he used to check the witnesses, right? Giving the testimony of the new month. So he had images of the moon, and he used to ask them, right, how did you see the moon, right? So the Talmud asks, how did he have curved images? And especially things that in heaven are even a bigger problem, like sun, moon, and stars. So the Talmud asks, how did Ram Gamliel have one, right? So the Talmud gave three answers. Or that it wasn't a complete, it was parts. It was not a full piece. It was parts that he used to put them together. Or that it's for the testing and checking out the witnesses, so it was a reason for it. That's why he had it. He was using it to do something for halacha, to sanctify the new moon, or in a place of public is no concern. So those are the three reasons, right? That's why Rabbi Gamliel did have. Okay, another one place I'll mention, where you find in the tabernacle and in the temple, perhaps you'll ask, oops, isn't it a problem of making curved images? And that is talking about the
cherubim,
the kruvim, right?
Yeah.
On the ark with two images. Okay, so, right. So it's a commentary speak about it. Is it? Well, you say angels.
Those faces also.
Okay, so the question is, was it faces of human being, male and female, or if it's a ox or eagle? There are different views on that. What is it? So
Who says that?
commentaries, like early commentaries, Rashi, Ramban, and early commentaries. So now, whatever it was images, right, with wings, right, similar to the angels. So the question is, oops, how that what's going on here? It sounds like, right, a prohibition, no?
Yeah.
It sounds like verse 4. We shouldn't do it, right? The explanation that I saw is an early commentary, Chizkuni, early commentary, Rishonim, and he says, well, first of all, don't make the mistake. They didn't worship it and they didn't serve it, right? It was there for decoration, right? For beauty of the Mishkan. So obviously, guys, the Mishkan has in it mystical things and insights, right? That how to build it, what should be there. There are a lot of details and insights that the idea says that the Beit HaMikdash here, right, is parallel to the Beit HaMikdash in heaven. So it reflects, right, of the Beit HaMikdash in heaven. So it had a reason why God, but it was there for decoration, for, right, for beauty of the Mishkan, but they didn't serve or worship it, right? And just like many things that in the temple that, so to speak, were different. For example, one of the things that you do, right, you work in the temple on Shabbat, right? You slaughter animals, right, and you burn them on Shabbat, right? So you see that there were exceptions that the temple was different, right? So just like they're allowed to kill animals, right, and to slaughter and to burn on the altar on Shabbat, so they're also allowed to build the kruvim for the purpose of the dedication of the temple. Shatnez, right? It's a prohibition of to wear wool and linen, right? Together, you're familiar with shatnez? Mm-hmm. Well, Kohanim in the belt have shatnez, right? So that is the exception. That's the answer. But just remember, like I told in the beginning, right? They didn't worship it and they didn't serve it. It was there for dedication for beauty. And it has many mystical ideas and things that why this way, why that way, right? A lot of insights in the table, in the altar, in the menorah. Certain things are more simple, certain things are more a little bit difficult, but certain things actually are very connected. The table is to give us the life food, the parnasah, that's the bread. The altar is serving God, right? The menorah is light to give us the understanding in the Torah. Okay, so that's one exception, the Kruvim. Okay, guys, let's go on. So the next one.
You shall not take the name of Hashem your God in vain, for Hashem will not absolve anyone who takes his name in vain.
Okay, so, right, so this is the third commandment, right? Lo tisa. We shouldn't, right? We should not take the name of God in vain. Now, what's the idea behind this? The idea is showing respect and honoring God. So just like you're not allowed to worship a different God, right? You're not allowed to serve a different God. You're not even to make a statue. We saw. This is one of the ways to show that it's serious, that we do not use God's name in vain. So guys, even when you learn the laws of brachot, we are very careful, right, to make the proper bracha. Because if you don't make the proper bracha, what's happening? God's name in vain. So therefore, the idea is like this. Let me just explain to you. Somebody took an apple, okay, right? And he says, by mistake, okay, so that idea it's a little bit complicated. Let's say by mistake, just for the example, guys, right? He says, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Oh, man.
So what did he do now?
He made a blessing in vain.
He needs to get his glasses checked.
He says Baruch Shem Kol
He needs
Right.
to eat bread.
But there's no bread around, right? And he didn't wash their hands, right?
Oh.
So I'm just, right?
Yeah.
So what happens?
So, right?
I don't know.
Right? So, so the way to do it, the problem is accidentally used God's name in vain, right? This is not bread, this is an apple, right? So you say, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto La'olam Va'ed. Well, the verse that we say after the Shema, quietly, that's what we say. So to speak, that fixes God.
What does that mean again?
Baruch Shem, the name of God, Kevod Malchuto, the honor of His kingdom, La'olam Va'ed, forever. When you said a blessing in vain, God's name in vain, what is it? A lack of respecting and honoring God, right? You're using God's name in vain, correct? It's a lack of respecting and honoring the name of God. So immediately to fix it, the best thing you're doing, you say, well, God is blessed and His kingdom is blessed forever. Baruch Shem, His name, Kevod, His honor, Malchuto, His kingdom, Le'olam Va'ed, forever. That's what we say after the Shema, right? Okay? So, now, if somebody, just mentioned here, halacha, if somebody saw a box, he thought that they have cookies in there, right? Mm-hmm. And he says, right, so you come into the room hungry, right, which you usually are, right? And before you check, you say, Baruch atah Hashem, right, to say Borem Nemezonah, right? And you say, Baruch atah Hashem, no cookies. So, yeah, you just said in a case that you said Baruch atah Hashem, you did not finish yet the blessing. Very good. So now you can say Lamdeini chukecha. Teach me your rules. Which Lamdeini. Lilmod is to teach.
It's in Tehillim, right?
Sorry?
It's in Tehillim, that verse?
Yes. Baruch atah Hashem, Lamdeini chukecha. So in any case, guys, that chukecha, chet. Yes. Yes. So if somebody started the blessing, right? Baruch atah Hashem, and he says, there's nothing to do the blessing on. You finish it, Lamdeini chukecha. Now, so using God's name in vain, right, is, we just said the blessings, but it also applies for swearing, right? Back in the day, people used to swear a lot, and swearing in using God's name, it could be in 4 ways. For example, if it's 4 ways to, for example, so let's say this pillar is gold, guys, right? And a guy will come and swear that it's stone. or something that is obvious, right? He'll swear and say that this pillar is, right, conquered and stone, right? Jerusalem stone, right? So he's saying something that is obvious, right? That's also a problem. Okay, how about if somebody will swear not to do a mitzvah? The idea is like this: you have all Jewish people already swear in Mount Sinai that they'll accept the Torah and mitzvahs. So a person cannot swear and say, I will not put on tefillin, I won't keep Shabbat, I won't eat kosher. Just does not apply. It's invalid.
Or because it doesn't apply, it's in vain. Correct. So if we swear on something and if we try to swear the opposite, that's going to be in vain.
Yes, correct. Okay, so far, guys, we gave 3 examples, right? Somebody will swear a lie that this is a gold pillar, okay? Somebody will swear what it is, it's obvious that it's stone, right? Rock, yeah? Or somebody will swear not to do a mitzvah, right? Okay, so it doesn't apply. It's using God's in vain, right? He can't swear that it's invalid because we all swear in Har Sinai. We accepted already the commandments of God, the Torah and Mitzvot, so you can't swear that I won't put on tefillin, it's invalid. Okay, and somebody swear that, the next month I'm doing exercise, right? Every day I'll go, right? And he doesn't fulfill it. So what happens when he doesn't fulfill it? Oops, it turns out that he used God's name in vain. The Ibn Ezra, one of the early commentaries, explains here that even in his time, this is talking 800 years ago, even in his time, that it was accepted in Egypt that whoever swears in the name of the king, right, and doesn't fulfill what he said, he gets punished, like serious punishment over there in Egypt. So you see, right, so the Ibn Ezra points out that if they care for human being, for flesh and blood, right, how much we have to care for Melech Malchei Amlachim, the King of Kings, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? Okay, what's the difference? I'll just explain to you guys another point. What's the difference between swearing and a vow? It's a big difference that halakha, so it's a technical difference, and as results of that is a big difference to the halakha. So guys, very simple, listen to this. When a person is swearing, he's swearing on himself. For God forbid, for example, somebody swears, I won't put on tefillin. Or, I won't go and visit whatever, my uncle, right? He's swearing on himself, right? It's on the body, on the person. A vow is on the object. A person says, this bread, for example, will be forbidden to me, this bread will be forbidden to me like pork. So what did he do? This bread now, to him, is like pork. So it's making,
Right?
that's a neder, that's a vow.
You're making something that's permissible, also to you, right?
To you, correct.
So you're taking an object, bread or fruits or vegetables, right? And he's saying, okay, all apples in the world are forbidden to me like pork, right? So he's not swearing and saying, I'm not going to eat apples. He's making the apples forbidden on him. So it's a big difference. You hear the technique? I'm not going in now to the laws of a vow, but it says, again, you shouldn't, that's why, guys, by the way, you hear people say something, okay, I'll come to visit you tomorrow. And they say, bli, neder, that it shouldn't be a vow. Shouldn't be any concern of a vow. Because it says that when you make a vow, it's also a big deal. You should keep your word. Somebody dedicated something to the temple, right? And he's a bit lazy. Oops, right? That's also breaking a vow. He took this cow, dedicated it to the temple. You got to bring it.
But really, that should be Bli Shavua, no? That's what one of the rabbis said.
Okay. Okay. Because you're on yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, but it could be that's what you mean, right? Okay, so just guys, for example, that's why I wanted that you should be familiar, understand, right? Those are the two. So swearing, okay, yeah, Meir? It's on the person. I won't do, right? I won't go. I won't eat. I won't put on tefillin, for example, right? And neder, a vow, is on the object, right? I won't eat apples, right? Sorry, all apples will be forbidden to me like pork, okay? And he's making a vow that he shouldn't be able to be in a sukkah. So basically applies, right? And because the idea is like this, he didn't swear here and say, I won't eat in a sukkah. That you cannot do. right? But he made the sukkah to be a prohibition on him. So that applies, and he has a problem. He has to cancel the vow. And just to end with this for this, guys, is swearing and a vow could be canceled by a chacham. You have to come to the chacham and to regret, and he has to find the opening for you to cancel the swearing and the vow. But the idea, guys, if you really look at it, it's a very interesting idea that when you swear or you make a vow, you take a vow, right? What did you really do? Only talk, right? Nothing physically really happened, right? If you think about it, it's very interesting that in Judaism, right, look, the power of talk. You only said, right? What happened? Right? Somebody swears, right? You only said. Well, talk, the power of speech is very powerful in Judaism.
God made the world through speech.
That's right. The Targum says in the beginning of Genesis, when it says that he blowed into him the Spirit of God, right? Right? And it says that a man was able to talk. That's how the Targum says, meaning that the power of man, for example, that is different than animals, that man is able to talk. So talk is a powerful thing and could be used in the right way and, God forbid, in the wrong way. Okay? So that's swearing, guys. So this is, right, using God's name in vain, prohibition. Okay? Swearing is the prohibition on the man himself, on the body. And a man cannot swear not to do a mitzvah, but to make a vow, actually, is on the object, and therefore he could make a vow, right, not to do a mitzvah, because it applies on the object, not on himself. He'll make that tefillin should be prohibited to him like pork, right, that he doesn't want to wear, right? So it applies, and he now has to cancel it, right? Swearing and a vow could be canceled by a chacham. Okay, the next commandment, right? Okay, verse 8. Who wants to read verse 8?
Remember the Shabbat day sanctified.
Yeah, go ahead.
Night also.
Yeah, go ahead.
6 days shall you work and accomplish all your work, but the seventh day is Shabbat to Hashem, your God. You shall not do any work, you, your son, your daughter, your slave, your maidservant, your animal, and your convert with your gates. For in 6 days Hashem made the heaven and earth, the sea and all that is in them, and He rested on the seventh day.
Okay.
Therefore,
Just finish the verse.
Therefore Hashem blessed the Shabbat day and sanctified it.
Okay. So this is the mitzvah of Shabbat. So you should know, right? So you know that the Ten Commandments are written twice in the Torah, right? This is in the first time actually when the event is happening, Matan Torah, that God is introducing the Jewish people to the Ten Commandments with the whole event that it's happening. The second time is written in the book of Dvarim when Moshe is telling them, don't forget what you saw, right? And he mentions again the Ten Commandments, right? So Moshe is warning them, don't forget and teach it to your children, right? That's obligation that all that generation has to pass it over to the next generation. That's why I told you in Judaism, we have a strong structure of witnesses that saw this event, right? The people that saw it with their own eyes, experience it, they have obligation to tell it over, to give it over. Okay, so when we repeat it in the book of Dvarim, guys, it's not, there's certain things are slight different. They're written a bit different words. For example, on Shabbat, what does it say here? Over here it says to remember the Shabbat. What says in the second time? Shamor, very good. To guard the Shabbat. Okay? So over here it says to remember the Shabbat. Over there to guard the Shabbat. So what's Zachor? What's to remember and what's to guard the Shabbat? So the simple explanation is Zachor, to remember, are the positive things to do to remember the Shabbat, to honor and respect Shabbat. For example, right, to do Kiddush, right, to have the special prayers, to have the nice meal, right? Those are positive things that we do, honoring and respecting the Shabbat. That's how I remember. If I do something different, if I mention that it's different, I'm sanctifying the Shabbat, showing the Shabbat is different than the weekday. So those are the positive things to do on Shabbat. That's Zachor. Okay? The Talmud brings down also that you know how you remember the Shabbat? Are you familiar, guys, that every day after the davening we say Psalm of the day? And how do we start? Hayom Yom Rishon, Shabbat. Hayom Yom Sheni, Shabbat. What's going on here, right? Every day we mention Shabbos?
Yeah.
That's the idea. That's the idea. Remembering and honoring the Shabbat, right? The idea is that I'm saying that, right, Sunday, Monday, and that is really, right, going towards Shabbat. What's the main day of the week? Shabbat, right? You mention every day because the main day is Shabbat. Hayom Yom Rishon b'Shabbat, Hayom Yom Sheni b'Shabbat. Tuesday of Shabbat, right? Because the main day of the week is Shabbos, and the weekday is really preparation for Shabbat. There are rabbis that used to go and shop during the week, and they used to find a nice piece of meat, right? So they thought, right, they'll keep it for Shabbat, but the next day they go and they find the nicer piece, right? So they take the nicer piece for Shabbat. So everything was going towards Shabbat, okay? So that's the idea. The idea is Zachor, to remember, right? Honoring, respecting the Shabbat or Shabbat itself, or like we're adding now, even in a weekday, we're honoring and respecting Shabbat. Okay? That's why we say, before we say the Psalm of the day, we say Hayom Yom Rishon b'Shabbat, Sheni b'Shabbat, and such. Okay. What's Shamor? How do we guard the Shabbat? So, not breaking it means to guard the Shabbat means the melachot that we do not do on Shabbat, the 39 melachot that we do not do on Shabbat. Okay? So, that's what it means to guard the Shabbat. So the Talmud even says that Zachor and Shamor really said together, right? Because it goes together. It's a set that goes together, and that's why, right? Women that are liable not to break Shabbat in a negative way have the same obligation of respecting and honoring the Shabbat. So women are liable for kiddush, right, at the same level as men also. Okay, now. I'll just mention to you, one of the commentary points out, and he says like this, that one of the differences, you see, I told you that in the writing they're a little bit different. The first commandments, and the way that it's written in the Torah, and the second one. So the Kli Yakar, one of the great commentaries, says that, you see, is a big difference. The first one was announced to everybody. The Ten Commandments were a big event, and actually it says that all of the nations, they realize that something is going on. The sounds and the lightning, right? And the mountains, right? They saw that something's going on. And actually, right, it was not only for the Jews, they were able to hear those sounds also, right? So that was for all nations. But the second commandments, when Moshe is speaking, to who is he speaking? Only to the Jewish people. So that's a very interesting idea to realize the differences between the first ones to the second one. Based on that, he answers some questions, okay? And I'll show you one of them. Okay, what's the reason here, right? In verse 11, what does it say, right? Why we should keep Shabbat? What's the reasoning, guys? So what says in verse 11?
Make it holy.
For in 6 days.
Rested on the seventh day.
So, right? So the idea is that God created the world in 6 days, right? And he rested on 7 days. So when we keep Shabbat, we're showing that we believe that Shabbat is different, that Shabbat is special, right? And you can't act on Shabbat like you do in a weekday. Just like God stopped creation, right? So you can continue to do certain things on Shabbat because Shabbat is different. Work, creation, right? Happened on 6 days. And so to speak, nothing was created, no work was done, right? But that's for us to understand. Okay, guys. Now, let me show you what is saying in the second commandments.
Safeguard the Sabbath day to sanctify it, as Hashem your God has commanded you.
So you see the difference? Over here is safeguard what we mentioned, yeah? Not remember, safeguard. Yeah, go ahead.
6 days shall you labor and accomplish all your work. But the seventh day is Shabbat to Hashem, your God. You shall not do any work. You, your son, your daughter, your slave, your maidservant, your ox, your donkey, and your every animal, and your convert within your gates, in order that your slave and your maidservant may rest like you.
Okay, 15, yeah, go ahead.
And you shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and Hashem your God has taken you out from there with a strong hand and an outstretched arm. Therefore Hashem your God has commanded you to make the Shabbat day.
Okay, what's the difference? Over here, do we mention why do we have to keep Shabbat? Why do we have to make Shabbat?
Hashem took us out of Egypt.
Because Hashem took us out of Egypt. We don't mention creation, that God created the world in 6 days and rested in the 7th day. We said, I have to keep Shabbat because God took you out of Egypt. The idea is, so you see, so what I'm showing you here, guys, you see the difference? That in the first time we mention that we should keep Shabbat to remember the Creator, that He created in 6 days and rested on the 7th day. Over here we say the reason is because God took us out of Egypt. Is this a new reason, a different reason? Could they go together? In Moreh Nevuchim, the Rambam says, you see the first one is said to remember the Shabbat. And to remember is the positive things of honoring, respecting the Shabbat like we mentioned, right? So therefore it's saying, when you're talking about the positive things, to remember to do things for Shabbat, is talking about creation, right? That God created the world in 6 days and rested in the 7th day. But in the second commandment, it says to guard the Shabbat, and those are the things that we don't do. So over here he's saying, who took you out of Egypt? Right? You're a slave in Egypt, right? You're working there, right? You didn't have no rest, no days off, right? And I'm the one that took you out of Egypt, and only because of me you have freedom and you're able to rest. So when it's talking about not working on Shabbat, it mentions the idea of going out of Egypt. Okay? So that's how the Rambam breaks it to two ideas, is the remembering is the creation, right? And, right, not working on Shabbat and not doing work is to remember you're a slave. What were you before God redeemed us, right? You're enslaved. Slave doesn't have no freedom, no days off, working like crazy, right? And now, who made you that, who will put you in a situation that you are able to rest is God. That's what the Rambam says to explain the idea. But the Nachmanis goes, guys, and says a fundamental idea. It's actually the same idea. You see, the idea of going out of Egypt, who took us out of Egypt, right? The 10 plagues that happened, right? The splitting of the Red Sea, right? All of those things prove that what? Who?
God exists.
God exists. Somebody's running the world. Somebody's controlling nature. All the 10 plagues happen, right? They're involved in changing things in nature, right? The river, right? Right? The Red Sea turns over to blood. How does that happen, right? The frogs, right, are all over. Lices, right? Hell and rain are coming together. All what happened, if you go through, it covers everything that is possible in the world. So what's that showing? Somebody is changing the order of nature. Who's changing that? So the idea is like this, that you see the exodus of Egypt, going out of Mitzrayim, shows us that it is a creator. So the Nachman is saying it's actually the same idea. That in the first time, we say directly, God created the world in 6 days and he rested on the 7th day. In the second time, we're saying, coming to support the idea, if you have doubts about creation, right, remember what happened in Egypt. What happened in Egypt? You're a slave, right? Pharaoh's controlling you 100%, right? And who made you to go out? Who helped you to go out? God. And what happened when you went out, right? You remember now the 10 plagues that happened, right? And all that. That will remind you that there is a creator. So Shabbat, right? So when they ask you what Shabbat, Shabbat reminds you both, right? And symbolizes both creation and the exodus of Egypt. And actually in Kiddush, if you realize in the Kiddush, we say both. We say, right? Zecher l'maaseh bereshit, to the work of creation, and Zecher l'yetziat Mitzrayim. We say both in Kiddush, right? So the idea of the Nachman is it's really the idea that is coming and telling you that, again, if you have doubts about creation, well, look what happened in Egypt what you saw with your own eyes. Remember that this generation experienced that. What you saw in your own eyes in the Exodus of Egypt, that should solve you the problem in believing in God. And actually, guys, in the first commandment, it says, Am Hashem your God, who took you out in the land of Egypt, right? Why he's saying took you out in the land of Egypt and didn't say created the world? Because he's speaking to them in a language, in something, in a way that they could appreciate. You were there when I took you out of Egypt. It wasn't somebody else. He's talking to them 50 days after they went out of Egypt, right? So he's approaching them with something that they experience on their own. So look what happened, right? The 10 plagues happened over a year, and everybody knew about it. It was revealed, right? It was not hidden miracles. It was revealed miracles, right? And that's why Hashem says, Am Hashem your God who took you out of the land of Egypt, okay? And that's a very strong point of the Ramban, that actually it's the idea, the exodus of Egypt supports the idea that is one created the world and who runs the world. And Shabbat reminds us both. Have a wonderful day.